Hi everyone, how's it going? After experimenting with lows and violet level clearance in my past couple of videos, today we'll be looking at one last card from Station 1. That is none other than MCA Informant. MC Informant gives Corps a kind of a new win condition. It's quite an interesting card and is something that I should be trying to exploit to the fullest. Okay, so before we do that though, I want to build a deck from scratch, bottom up. A corp deck that does fairly well against this monstrosity of a deck. This is a big problem in the current meta because Temujin contract is just so strong. With the big money from Temujin contract, now decks that run very expensive breaker suites, Cipher plus Paperclip plus York. That is a huge investment, and that's not even including the Sentry Breaker. Prior to this current meta, most decks that run such an expensive breaker suite have no place in the competitive meta because they will get pushed out by fast decks, rush decks, such as Astrobiotics. But now that the meta has slowed down a bit, and now that Temujin contract just gives so much burst economy and long-term economy at that, such decks become viable. And it's very hard to stop this economy. So this was the basis for my HP deck that I won the London BABW with. But now I'm trying to take it in a different direction. I'm trying to see if I can use MCA Informant to punish Temujin money. So I'm going to try to build a deck from scratch up that does this. And I think the way to outdo Temujin money is to simply play CTM. It is not very palatable having to play such a so-called competitive ID, but it really is the way to do it because this ID taxes anyone who tries to contest the economy suite, the assets at all. So we want to play a good number of assets and upgrades to tax the runner. Hopefully they don't have Sunset Slums. This deck runs 2 copies of it, so this is a big problem. But otherwise, we want to run a lot of assets, and then we want to punish Aaron Marin with MC Informant. So let's get the MC Informant down. It's quite difficult to ask yourself how many you should play. 3 seems like necessary because nowadays people will run lots of errands and deja vus to recur them, but I guess you can do with 2 for now. So let's put 2 in and let's start dropping the assets. As said, we want to play lots of assets as much as possible to tax out the wizard deck or any runner for that matter. Either make sure that they go dirt poor if they were to contest your assets, or you get very rich if they don't. So Sensi is a no-brainer. Very powerful card. Needs to be in. Pan Campaign. This card is super annoying for anyone but Wizard to trash. You really don't want to pay 4 for this, especially when it's unres. It's so good in fact that I want to play a Nasex on top of it. 2 to res is quite a big downside, which is why we'll also play Mamba Temples. We'll play 2 of them for now. Mamba Temple synergizes very well with Paired Campaign because it's exactly 2 recurring credits, and Paired Campaign costs exactly 2 to res. So they go hand in hand. Yeah. DBS would be a very good card to have here as well, but that's luxury. I don't think we'll have the deck slots for that, so we'll leave it as it is for now. You'll notice that I already inserted cards like Hedge Fund, Sweet Sweet, and Jackson prior to this. These are no-brainers. They go in any deck. NBN deck, and the agenda suite is very standard CTM. I am going to try to win via exchange of information. We'll put 2 copies in. Because we're playing MC Informant, we kind of expect that Aaron won't live for long, so with exchange we should be able to set that up as our win condition to swap over breaking users for global foods. What else do we need? Yeah, we do need some ice. Let's drop some ice in. Toll Booth is a very good piece of ice to rush an early agenda or a Sand Sand behind. Speaking of Sand Sand, because we're running this agenda suite, I think it'll do us good to get a Sand Sand up. Sand Sand allows us to score the 2 pointers, which brings us nearer to our win condition, as well as allow us to set up the breaking news into exchange combo against someone without Aaron. 3 Archangel I think is absolutely necessary. I think this is, as Big Boy put it, one of the biggest weaknesses for the wizard deck. If you look at the decoder suite, Black Orchestra and York do not really enjoy breaking archangels. Sure, there's Cipher, and Cipher will become annoying once it hits the table, but until then they have to respect the threat of archangel, and it's not expensive to res at all. So 3 copies seems just right, and even with Cipher, they have to spend at least 2 turns getting past the archangel. The first turn on face check they have to use the Cipher to get past it with York, and on the second turn they can Paracipher it, but that's 2 Cipher triggers wasted. So yeah, Archangel's a good roadblock against Wizard. What else do we want? Other good decoded pop-up is a very very good ice here. Because Wizard with Slums has very good game against us, we need to be able to get money some way or another, and pop up onto Paired Campaign or pop up onto a Mamba Temple does that. You'll be getting money whether they run it or not, so I'm gonna run 3 copies of it. I want to see one early. Let's put some more end runs in. Wrap around. 2 IP blocks, because IP block is really good against Wizard, even though they don't run Faust, any AI breakers. This is still really taxing because Wizard has no link, so the trace 3 is always going to be very annoying. A snake, because we're from the UK and everyone loves snakes. Alright, so we'll notice that we have 2 influence left, and we have 3 deck slots left. So a very obvious include here would be Commercial Bankers Group, because this is what the world's winning CTM plays, but we can do better than that. Because we're running a lot of assets, as said, we want to be able to keep them on the board. I think Friends seems like a very natural include here. You would play as many of them as you can, but I'm only going to play 1, because that final influence I want to spend it on something special. You guessed it, it's our very own connection, Corporate Troubleshooter. This synergizes with MCA Informant. If you didn't realize, you can host MCA Informant on Troubleshooter, and I'm going to show that in just a bit during the playthrough. But basically, this allows you to actually force the runner into making a run on the shooter. If they fail to get to the Corporate Troubleshooter, they'll remain tagged, and you can inflict all sorts of tag punishment on them, from trashing all their resources to playing exchange of information. So this is what we want, and what synergizes very well with MCA into Troubleshooter is Data Ward. Yes, Data Ward, because this piece of ice allows you to just keep the runner out completely against the combo. So if you have a Data Ward installed, that is a server where you can safely drop a Troubleshooter and an MCA Informant behind. And it's going to be very difficult for most runners to contest it. Even the best case scenario is probably a paperclip that will cost the runner 7 clicks and the face check on encounter for Data Ward, which is 3 credits or a tag. And finally, the only real weakness of this is Paracipher, unfortunately. This is quite vulnerable to Paracipher, but other than that, it should be pretty good. So, this deck does not completely rely on the Troubleshooter MCA combo. I've tried various deck builds with it, and I realized that it's very, very... it's not something that you really want to pull off every game, and Corporate Troubleshooter and MCA Informant can be dead cards a lot of times. So playing 3 of each seems like a big mistake when they're going to be blank most of the time. So this is why I'm only playing 1 of most of the combo pieces. Sometimes I'll get to assemble the combo, but most of the time I can do without. I'll just drop MC Informants on the errands themselves and just play like normal CTM otherwise. This is a very much standard CTM with just a couple of spice cards as, you know, emergency valves. So let's see how this plays out in the playthrough. Alright, today's matchup is our CTM versus Leela Patel. Now, just a fair warning beforehand, my opponent might be in a bit of a drunken stupor. It is Saturday night, so do pardon my opponent if they seem to be making any misplays. They will make quite a few throughout the game, but don't worry, I'm also going to be making misplays, so it all works out. Starting opening hand is very interesting. You do want to throw out the pet campaign immediately and get the most out of it. However, I'm up against Leela Patel, so I have to change my equations a bit. Normally, I would do something like 1 piece of ice, paired campaign, sweep against most runners, say Wizard, Kate, etc. But against Leela, I need to defend both R&D and HQ, because if I don't, they will simply run 1 server, maybe steal an agenda, bounce my HQ ice, and then go for Siphon. I cannot have that happen. That is too big of a tempo swing against me. With that said, the paired campaign has to wait, because I do want to play the Sweep first turn in case my opponent starts dropping cards from the hand, as they are doing right now. Temujin goes on Archives. and I can't really stop that. I could possibly triple ice my centrals, but this is not an option for a CTM deck that plays horizontally. Now I skipped the video a bit here. The recording messed up a bit, so sorry about that. But you didn't really miss much. I simply stopped the Temujin on archives by putting an Archangel on archives, followed by installing the pack campaign I said I would earlier, and my opponent gets an Aaron Marin up as well as a just a regular tracker. Tracker is a very odd card. It's really expensive to use, so my opponent can't really use it to get Temujin triggers, but what they are going to do here is to DDoS HQ. Whew, I was really praying that he wasn't going to siphon me. Thankfully he didn't. Going for a regular run instead, and then 2 more runs on archives to fetch Temujin money. So I really weathered the storm there, and I'm not going to make the same mistake again. Double ice on HQ. In case my opponent does draw the siphon, I need to make sure that I don't get siphoned down to oblivion. Even though I do run tank punishment, it only works if my opponent has agendas in their score area, which they don't. So I need to make sure that the siphon doesn't fire off. So yeah, now that there's an Aaron Marin on the board, I will look to draw an MCA informant and hopefully drop it on the Aaron Marin. I might have Corporate Troubleshooter in my hand right now. It's a one-off, but at this point, I'm still a bit too poor to execute the whole combo. That being said, I do have a data war on R&D, so if I do end up executing combo, it will be on R&D. Install Corporate Troubleshooter on R&D, followed by MC Informant on it. That would be an interesting line of play. We'll see whether I can pull that off later. But yes, the main priority right now is to get rid of the Aaron Marin, because once it's off the board, I can start scoring agendas like breaking news. Right now, I can't really afford to score agendas without giving my opponent too much tempo. Not only are they getting Aaron counters, but they will also get Leela trigger, setting me really far back. Now, I luckily draw into my Jackson, which allows me to clear all the agendas from my hand. As I said, I do not want to be scoring agendas at this point. And I do draw into the MC Informant, so this is a really huge respite right here. My opponent does get Sneak Door down, but doesn't actually use it. They do, however, threaten Temujin on HQ, so without a doubt, I'm going to show up archives next turn to suffocate my opponent's Temujin. They are not going to get the Temujin. Yeah, so this is not what you want to do as the runner. You do not want to drop a Temujin and then not run. It's very easy for your opponent to react and make it very hard on you to actually get your Temujin money. So, yep, I look at the Archangel, not very comfortable. I think I need to put the Cobra on archives right here. That snack is going to sneakily disrupt my opponent right here. Alright, all good. My opponent continues setting up, and now that I'm on 17 credits, I can actually afford to play the MCA combo. I'm going to go for it. My other option was to drop the MCA on Aaron Marin, but I would prefer doing this, because if I do it this way, I can then trash my opponent's Temujin with 20 credits and set them really far back. So this is going to be an ultimatum to my opponent, if you will. They spent too long setting up. They don't even have breakers yet. They are just setting up really odd cards like Tracker and Sneak Door that don't really do much once I actually have 1 or 2 pieces of Unrest Ice there. So I'm telling my opponent, you have to run this in this turn, otherwise you're going to face the consequences. And yes, thankfully I found the pop-up window there. It was able to block the inside job. Otherwise, the single data ward wouldn't have kept my opponent out. So very thankful that I was able to stop the inside job. And now my opponent bumps into the data ward. For those of you who are not really aware of this, data ward into Troubleshooter MCA is by far the best combo, because MC Informant leaves an unclearable tag on your opponent, which activates the data ward. So data ward is normally a very big liability because it tends to not be very good, because most runners are very good at avoiding tags. You have to line up some sort of really big combo like Data Raven into Data Ward in order for Ward to be effective. But MCA Informant is one very good way of turning Data Ward on, and it's a very convenient combo. So now that my opponent is stuck with the tag, I can start trashing stuff. I trash a Temujin, I trash the Aaron. For those of you who are wondering where's the MCA Informant, it has not been implemented on JNet yet, so there is an MC Informant on R&D. We both know that it's there. Okay, so I do not clear the daily cast here. Instead, I take a credit. I do not want to give my opponent extra money because this deck doesn't run close to counts. Yeah, deck slots are really tight. So I want to keep my opponent's money as low as possible, and to do that, I want to trash the daily cards, but I can't afford to do so because I need to have enough credits to defend my centrals. Otherwise, I'll get the breaking news stolen from me. I'll be open to further exploits down the road. So I felt that this was the best line of play for me. By taking a credit, I can threaten both the IP block res on HQ and the Snake or Archangel res on Archives. My opponent makes a tracker run on Archives here, which was really weird. Again, they are in a drunken stupor. This run does absolutely nothing but to drain 2 credits from my opponent. Now they make the correct run. They hit the Sneak Door. And after some thought, I decided to res the Snake instead of the Archangel. I can't afford to res both. So this will allow me to kill the Sneak Door, so I don't have to worry about that for the rest of the game. My opponent hits a friends in HQ. Oh, yeah, I've been getting really lucky. My opponent's HQ accesses have been really bad. Even though there are agendas in there, they keep missing it. So, good for me. Now it's time for me to set up my economy. So the NASDAQ goes down. With the 2-pack campaigns and hedge fund, I should be able to get back in business. This is going to be a very long grind, a very slow game, because even though I've completely crippled my opponent, even though the MCA informant has just utterly destroyed my opponent's resource rig, unfortunately, it isn't actually really advancing my win condition at all. That's the thing with the MCA Troubleshooter combo. It's a lot like the janky cards that you see printed rather often in this game. They do really fancy stuff, they're really cool, they take quite a bit of effort to set up, but even if you do, you can't really win. It's like, I guess a good parallel is like Tori Hanzo. You get it set up and you're like, okay, now what? Now I need to find a way to actually win. How do I win? I do draw into a wraparound Archangel thanks to Jackson. But, oh no, Fisk. My opponent played Fisk Investment Seminar, helping me out a bit there. And seeing that I'm struggling to find my win condition. I have 0 agendas scored. Against Leela, of course, you try to drag out the game. But even then, I can't seem to find a way to win. Even though wraparound and Archangel is something I could do, I can't safely score behind it. Do you know why? Yes, my opponent has Tracker. Even though Tracker hasn't been helping my opponent at all, one thing it'll do very well is to defend remotes. Pressure remotes. So I cannot go wraparound Archangel because my opponent will simply tracker into the remote, let Archangel fire, and use the Tracker negation on wraparound. Or at least that's what I thought my opponent could do. If you have played with Tracker for any amount of time at all, you would know that Tracker can only prevent the first subroutine from being fired. So Tracker would have to be used on the outermost Archangel. So basically, the moral of the story is I could actually score behind an Archangel wraparound server, and I should have tried to do that. My opponent was clearly not going to get any breakers anytime soon, and even then they would have to guess the wraparound correctly by bringing out a Fractal. It doesn't even seem like my opponent's running barrier breaker, any breakers at all, given what they're showing so far. And indeed, having no way to contest my servers and being permanently tagged, my opponent sees no way out and decides to concede. Which was just as well, because you don't want to sit around here waiting for 5 minutes while I try to set up an impenetrable scoring server, right? Yeah, so let's get on with the after action review. Alright, now with that playthrough out of the way, we now have to deal with the controversial issue of MC Informant Troubleshooter combo being broken, dumb, unintended, stupid, whatever adjective you want to use. If you think that this combo is bad for the game for some reason, I would like you to pause the game and rationalize, logically tell me why you think this combo is bad, or whatever your definition of bad is. Because after this, I'm going to try to logically rationalize the existence of this combo, and we'll see on what grounds can we say that this combo is broken or breaking the game. So yeah, pause the video if you haven't. I would really like you to come up with a logical reason why this is a stupid combo if you think it is. Alright, have you thought of it? Now, let's analyze this logically. First up, let's compare this to Seesaw Scorched Earth. They are both 2-card combos. One's in the core set, one was just released. If we put them side by side, we would realize that MCA Troubleshooter is no more game breaking than Seesaw Scorched Earth. So if something that is as powerful as Seesaw Scorched Earth was printed right now, you wouldn't, criticize it for being bonkers or game breaking. Why would you say that for MC Informant and Troubleshooter? Well, let's look at it this way. One combo wins you the game immediately, one doesn't. Can you tell which it is? Obviously, Sea Scorched Earth is a powerful 2-card combo because it just outright wins you the game by a flat line. MCA Troubleshooter doesn't do the same. It slaps an unremovable tag on the runner, sure, but an unremovable tag isn't a win. It doesn't get you to it doesn't get you a game win immediately, unlike with Seesaw Scorched Earth. The runner has a lot of time to counterplay against it, to get to 7 agenda points, to achieve their own win condition. With MCA Troubleshooter, you need to find some way to leverage on that unremovable tag to win the game, and trust me, it's harder than it sounds. Also, the MCA Troubleshooter combo can be disrupted by simply running the Corporate Troubleshooter and trashing it. This is not something that most runners can do against Seesaw Scorched Earth, unless you have some sort of disruptive card such as Imp or Edward Kim, for example. You are not going to be able to trash Seesaw Scorched Earth. Moreover, Seesaw Scorched is not something that you can predict. You don't know if the corp has fully assembled their Sea Scorched combo. Whereas with Troubleshooter, you know they have the 2-card combo when they install the Corporate Troubleshooter and use the MCA Informant. You know which server is in, you can go and trash it. You can't say the same for Seesaw Scorched Earth unless you are able to reveal your opponent's hand somehow. So MCA Troubleshooter is a lot more telegraphed and doesn't win you the game. How can you say it's game breaking? I argue that if you are saying that the new combo is game breaking, I would disagree, because it is not at all. Far from that, it is a very unreliable combo that can be disrupted easily. That doesn't win you the game. I wouldn't say that's game breaking. Another important thing to note is that some people might say, hey, Seesaw Scorched Earth has hard counters. You can play meat damage protection like +3 and I've had worse. Then exists no good counter for MCA Troubleshooter. Because of the way the interaction works, you can leave Corporate Troubleshooter unres. You just have to reveal it when you play MCA Informant on it. This means Pull-Up doesn't work, and Drive-By doesn't work if it's on the central, like it was this game. So this is arguably bad game design. Or is it? I claim that this is not a valid argument for MCA Informant being broken with Troubleshooter, because I argue that every single runner in the game, regardless of faction, has an innate counter to MCA Informant Troubleshooter. Do you know what it is? Yep, it's none other than your basic action. Make a run. What's so difficult about making a run? You have exactly one turn to get to the Troubleshooter. Do it. You know it's there. Go for it. Get through the server. Trash the Troubleshooter. Problem's over. Yeah, so why do you need a hard counter when every single runner can just simply make a run? And to add on top of that, to combine with the previous point on this not being a win condition in itself, the corp needs some way to convert the unremovable tag to a win, be it exchange of information or simply Scorched Earth, at which point you're just moving the problem back another step, because if the runner somehow is not able to successfully make a run, maybe they're too poor to get through the ice or to trash the shooter, well, just install your hate cards against the tag punishment. Against exchange, get your artist colony out. Against Scorched Earth, just look at the screen. You have I've had worse, you have Plascrete, you have all the counters you need. So I really don't feel that this combo is broken because it's so low impact. It is unreliable, it is easily disrupted, and it is low impact. So the power level of this combo is not a logical reason to claim that it's game breaking. It is not super powerful at all, because even as the corp, if you are building around this combo, you are compromising the rest of the deck. Let's look at it this way. This is my current deck, the deck that I use to overwhelm Leela this game. And yes, it does seem very powerful, the way in which I use the combo to destroy their resource brick and make the game unplayable for them. But what were the chances of me actually drawing that? You notice that I only ran one Troubleshooter, 2 MC Informants, 1 Data Ward. I got incredibly lucky to have drawn all these cards in quick succession. I think I didn't even make it halfway through my deck to see all of the combo pieces, despite them being one-offs. I was really, really lucky in that position. They could have easily been stuck at the bottom of my deck, and I would not have been able to play the combo. It's very unreliable. Moreover, if I were to make it more reliable by increasing the quantities of these cards, I'll be compromising my defenses in terms of ice because I would have to swap out deck slots for it. I'll be compromising my economy, which is a big problem because I need at least 10 credits to pull this combo off. 6 for the data ward, 4 for the MCA informant, and then more credits to actually inflict tag punishment. You notice that as I continue compromising deck slots to include more copies of these combo cards for their reliability, I'm going to lose out on tag punishment as well. I only have 2 exchange with which to leverage that extra tag on. I don't even have a copy of Close Accounts in this deck. That's how bad this deck is. Trust me, I've tried to build several decks that utilize this Troubleshooter MCA combo, and reality is, it's just too difficult because deck slots are so tight. You'll be compromising a very big part of your strategy against a lot of runners who don't care about tags. And this all boils down to the fact that Corporate Troubleshooter is just a really bad card in NBN. You don't really want to play this card. This does almost nothing most of the time. So it just bloats up deck slots. It's a dead card if you don't need the combo, and when you do need the combo, it's easily disrupted. So yes, it could be a powerful combo in the sense that runners might not have a hard counter in the form of plus greed against it, but, well, you're compromising the rest of your deck. It's gonna be less good. Simple as that. As such, again, I claim that it's not game breaking because of the amount of compromises you need to make it work. Now, what about card design? This could bode poorly for the game's future, because if you design such a win condition in the form of an unremovable tag in an upgrade, you have to be careful with future card design. If you design a corp upgrade in the future, for example, that ends the run if the runner is tagged, then you have a very unstoppable way to tag the runner passively. That could be true. On the same token, however, this is no more restrictive than any new mechanic that you put out there. All new mechanics for that matter, and new win conditions have to be carefully analyzed by the design team to ensure that future cards do not cause uninteracted or broken interactions. And that's just something that the game designer has noted. This does not mean that the game design is overly restrictive. If anything, MCA Informant this combo actually makes a good case for a new win condition as the corp. Because just like breaking news, you need a way to punish runners that are too passive. Otherwise, you would encourage decks that take too long to set up, or decks like Diaper, which try not to interact with the runner at all by making no runs. You want to force the runner to make runs to trash the Corporate Troubleshooter. And that's good. Finally, the corp has some way to force the runner to spend the resources to control the corp, and that's a good thing. And it is interactive because it encourages the corp to ice up this Troubleshooter, in contrast to something like an asset spam based winning strategy, which is a lot less fun. This is a lot more interactive and dynamic, in my opinion. Finally, is this interaction unintuitive or unintended? I think this is the only point which you could possibly argue that logically argue that this interaction shouldn't exist. As I mentioned earlier, and as I claim, this is not game breaking. This is not a problem in terms of future card design. The only way which you can argue that MCA troubleshooters shouldn't exist is because it seems like an unintuitive, unintended interaction. And I'll give you a bit of leeway on that. As I'll argue later, this is entirely subjective. So, why is it unintuitive? When you first see this card spoiled, we can say, hey, let's look at this card, let's see what it's trying to do from a game design perspective. We see that it's a connection, it can be hosted on connections, and we can see that it forces the runner to trash the connection in order to get rid of it. That seems quite good. This seems like an anti-connection card. Moreover, it's a terminal. This design suggests that this card is meant to be used on runner connections, and the terminal was put there so that it would not cause problems when the corp plays this card and then attempts to, scorch the runner immediately after. It gives the runner some time to react to trash the MCA informant. Also good so far. But when you introduce corp connections, it creates an unintended interaction because suddenly this trash this card clause cannot be activated by the runner. So this is probably the reason why this combo seems to be broken or unintended, because it's doing something that the original design of the card doesn't suggest, or something that you cannot infer from the base design of the card. It seems like the trash this card ability is meant to be some way to balance the card, because obviously if you cannot trash MC Informant as the runner, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that is exactly what you can do with MCA Informant with Troubleshooter as the core, to abuse it, to ensure that the runner cannot trash it on their own terms. But I argue that this is subjective, because you can actually say the same thing for a lot of other cards, whose design seems to lead you towards one way but have another, perhaps unintended usage, which seems to so-called break the game. An example I'm thinking of right here is Test Run Scavenge. Test Run was the first of the two cards to come out, and it allows you to install a program ignoring all costs, which seems pretty bonkers. But the reason why they allowed it to ignore all costs is because it goes back to the top of your stack at the end of the turn. And coupled with the fact that it's called Test Run, it leads you to believe, hey, this card suggests that, it's meant to make expensive programs be used as a one-time, have a one-time use. You can use it for the whole of one turn, but after that it goes back to your deck and you have to reinstall it at normal costs. Seems fine so far. Then Scavenge came into play, Scavenge got printed, and suddenly you can cheat your expensive Fems and Torches on the board. Did we think it was breaking? Game breaking? Broken? Stupid? Dumb? Because in every sense, it is as dumb as MCA Informant. They both circumvent some part of the card and give it an unintended way to combo with another card to produce an entirely different effect. In Test Run's case, the entirely different effect is cheating up expensive programs on the board, and for MC Informant, it's sticking an unremovable tag on the runner. Whether this is unintended and unintuitive is really subjective, because it is quite a double standard if you claim that Test Run is fine, MC Informant is not. So these are my arguments for MCA Troubleshooter. At the end of the day, I think it is perhaps it's a bit unintuitive, I would agree with that. But to say that it's game breaking is rather misleading. If anything, it is not that much different from a combo like Test Run Scavenge. And it certainly is nowhere near as strong as a combo as Seesaw Scorched Earth. So yeah, that is my conclusion on the issue. If you still think that there are other logical arguments to be made against MC Informer and Troubleshooter, do leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, hopefully this has given you new insight, and hopefully you can see why certain arguments can or cannot be made against this combo. I'd like to end off by saying that Test Run is actually a card from the first cycle, which means that it's actually going to get rotated out. So do play the Test Run Scavenge combo while you still can. This is something that we're going to lose in about 6 months' time come rotation. Well, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching and happy net running. I'll see you around.